Thanks for joining us for another edition of Communication Steroids, the weekly podcast that shows you how to become a better public speaker, a more effective presenter, and a conscious and clear communicator. This is where you can find tips, tools, and techniques that you can put to use today. Here are your hosts of Communication Steroids, Tim Gonzo Gordon and Roger Pike.
Hey, it's the podcast from Communication Steroids, and I am Tim Gordon.
And I'm Roger Pike, and welcome. We're glad to have you along with us today.
Yeah, we're going to start off with a trivia test.
Oh, no.
Look around very closely at the only way you can answer this, by the way, is more of an observational test, not really a trivia test.
I see.
But if you pay attention to this show on video versus the last several shows, if you are the first person to post on our website in a comment, the one thing that's different in the background, we're going to give you, I'll tell you what, I'm going to give them everything. I'm going to give them the 8-part audio series that we recorded.
Wow, yeah, that's a big prize.
Yeah,
it's
the first person
prize.
to do that, yeah. So it shouldn't be that difficult. So that's it. You just got to look in the background and see what's different from the last one, which means you got to go back and watch a previous one, at least enough to figure out.
What is different in the background about today's show?
What is different? And if you're listening on audio, quickly hoof it on over to communicationsteroids.com. If you downloaded it into your iTunes and you're listening to it while you're on the plane from Timbuktu to Dallas or something, I don't know.
Whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
Timbuktu even.
Anyway, had a good week, and you?
I had a pretty good week myself. Yeah, not bad at all. It, of course, is election week, but now those shenanigans are over. We don't have to listen to those.
I will miss the robocalls.
Yeah.
I felt so wanted.
Yeah, so needed.
I just felt, these people want me. They're sending out the robocalls.
Have you voted yet? I must have been asked if I'd voted like 9 times.
And I had a lot of people from the party that I don't even belong to asking me if I'd come spend time doing a phone bank, and I almost took them up on it.
That would have been great.
Thinking that would have been an interesting way to...
My name is Tim. I'm from Party X. Vote for Party Y.
But, I decided I was too busy. Actually, I'm very busy because I'm putting this speech together that I'm giving here in about 3 weeks or so.
I'm so jealous. I want to go to Florida and
You don't need to keep saying that.
I know I don't, but I still am.
I'm gonna kind of campaign it with you here in a little bit and just get your take on some of the organization stuff I've done. So, but you've got an idea for the podcast tonight. Let's hear it.
Well, we talk a lot at Communication Steroids about professional communications and communications in the office. We've talked about building a communications culture, but I thought maybe we just give a few tips to people who are in management positions or in senior positions about the kinds of things that you ought to do to prepare for and to deliver positive, complete messages when you're communicating in an office setting, either in a small group or even one-on-one.
Well, you'll have to do this because I've never had a job, so... Well, I guess I've had a job. It's been an office.
A job or two.
Spent 25 years in radio as a disc jockey. That's sort of an office.
You've never had a corporate job?
I've never had a corporate job, no. Anyway, you have. And you're bragging about this?
No.
So, start up, my man.
Already? We're not going to have a little break first? No?
Heck with that. We got video going,
Well, the very first thing that you want to do is establish what we like to call a communications culture. It's number 1 on the list. We talk about it all the time. It's the first thing that you need to do. And what we mean by that is just that you need to understand that every time you have a conversation, when you're talking with someone one-on-one at their desk or in your office, or when you're meeting with groups or teams, you need to see that as a possibility for promoting what we call buy-in. It's an opportunity to inspire. It's an opportunity to generate enthusiasm. It's an opportunity to educate. It's an opportunity to make the message of the month known to your group. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't occasionally talk about football scores, for crying out loud. We all love the Ducks, for heaven's sake.
At least out here on the West Coast in Oregon, yes.
But you need to understand that each conversation potentially has meaning, and you need to take it as having meaning, and you need to take it as a chance to inspire. So establish that a communications culture. I just can't stress that enough.
It's almost like what you're saying is let's have an open door policy for everything, in a sense, maybe, or almost everything.
Yeah, and accepting the notion that in the business world it's not just about most people in the business world accept that it's not that conversations aren't about talking about your family or stuff like that. It's talking about business, but not just business. When you tell someone that to get this report done, that's not part of a communications culture. If you tell them something else, if you say, if you get this report done by Wednesday, I can have it on the boss's desk by Friday, and we can have it in production by the following Monday. Now that's a communications culture, because
exactly.
you are encouraging people to buy in to the success of the organization.
You're telling them how important that piece they're doing is to the result of the overall process that is going on, and I like
exactly
that. Yeah.
So, and that increases productivity immeasurably. You want to know what one of the most successful of the communication cultures is?
Tell me.
United States military, from a private to a general. Everybody knows how important their particular contribution is.
Okay. And
because they know how important it is, they develop what in the military they call esprit de corps, the spirit of the Army, the spirit of the Corps. And that spirit is what
it's just not the strict command that you are doing this or else.
It's that, but there's something that's overlaid on top of that, and that is everybody understands what the mission is.
They understand their piece of the puzzle, and how important their particular piece is.
And it's, nobody's going to throw themselves on a grenade at your place of business.
No.
But they do it in the military because they establish the esprit de corps, and everybody knows how important the next guy sitting right on their right side is to them.
And you can figuratively throw yourself on a grenade in a business situation by taking the heat for something which maybe your whole staff might have gotten, and you're saving them in a situation. I can see situations like that come up.
But you establish that communications culture, and you will just be amazed at the results and amazed at the increase in productivity. People don't just work for the paycheck; they work for something larger than that.
They really do, yeah.
And you can. The second thing that I think you ought to do is be consistent. You've got to manage that message. In fact, in politics, they do it in a lot of different ways. One of the ways is that a lot of the caucuses, I won't say all, and I won't say every state does it or the federal government does it every day, but they'll have caucuses, and in the caucuses they'll decide what the message of the week is, or the message of the month, or the message of the day. And then everybody who walks out of the room will have that on their minds. Now, it may not be the only thing that they talk about over the course of the day with the media, but it's something that they will talk about.
That's sort of their overriding goal or overriding piece that they've got to hand.
Right. They have the message of the month, and they're going to sell that message of the month. You should do that too. And as a management person in a corporation, management should get together and decide, this is what we're going to talk to our employees about this month, and it's the message. So be consistent with that. Then I think you should own your message, and you know how to own your message.
Live it.
You live it, but every statement that you make is an I statement. I think, I feel. My opinion is.
It's not you are making me feel this way. You are doing this. It's I feel this way. I see you doing this. I understand. Yeah, that's not only is that important in corporate communications, it's very important in personal communications.
It really is.
In a marriage, for instance, or another sort of close relationship like that with your kids. Instead of pointing the finger, you're saying, "Here's how I am responding
reacting
to what you're
it.
doing." Yeah.
Right. And so own that message. Own it. Own it. Own it. I think. I feel. And you'll be amazed at how far you get doing that, and it's part of another secret that I was planning to talk about, and that it was to avoid judgmental situations.
That's a secret?
Yeah, it's not a secret, is it? One of the other tips I was going to give, which was to avoid judgment, and you minimize the judgmentalism in your voice when you use I statements as opposed to statements.
One of the most important things there is the tone that accompanies the words you say. You can say the same words 3 or 4 different ways and express entirely different messages and feelings just by the tone of your voice.
Absolutely true, and that brings us to something else. Make sure that your verbal communications and your nonverbal communications are congruent. Make sure they mesh.
Make that they're synced up as best you can.
You don't want to be laughing while you're ripping out somebody's tonsils.
And a lot of times, if to keep someone your tone down to a normal tone, you may be upset about something, and you may have to say, "Okay, I got to think about this. I got to settle down," and then once I know what I'm going to say and how I'm going to say it, and then say it in as calm a voice as you possibly can, instead of flying off the handle. A lot of
ranting
people do
ranting
and raving, and then all of a sudden you've got regret because you communicated in a way that you really didn't intend to.
One of the biggest barriers to positive and dynamic communication is defensiveness, and when you put someone on the defensive, they immediately become reactionary. And what I mean to say by that is their first thought is, how do I counter what he's saying?
Yeah, because
rather than is what is he saying? Does what he is saying have validity?
It takes away from the content of your message and gets to the style that you're presenting it.
Yeah, and it will bite you in the butt every time.
It becomes, and if it gets really bad, it becomes very dysfunctional.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So don't put your employees on the defensive. Have them make sure that they're listening to what you're saying.
You got a couple last ones here?
I do, and one of them is to pay attention to feedback. Maybe you're accidentally putting someone on the defensive, so pay attention to their body language and what they're saying, and employ those techniques of active listening that we've taught you over the course of our communication steroids life, and make sure that you're asking questions. I mean, this is what I understand you to say.
Yeah.
Do I have that right?
You're clarifying, confirming,
exactly.
And then moving on.
So use your active listening skills as part of your whole feedback mechanism. Pay attention to their body language. Are they open and receptive to what you're saying? Are they closed and defensive? You don't want to talk just to hear yourself talk. You don't want to talk just to fulfill some sort of quota for communications that you have in your head. You want to talk to communicate, and feedback tells you that you're achieving that goal.
And you're looking, and the way to really test how this is all working is, do you get the result that really is the best for you and the company that you're working for?
Yeah.
And a lot of it, you have to kind of put yourself back into an objective stance, in a sense, almost third person, to take yourself out of the situation mentally and emotionally. You're still there, you're still caught up in it, but you just kind of have to distance yourself. That way you can become less, I guess, personal, not less personal, but less intense, less defensive, all of that stuff.
Right.
And you can have better communication as a result.
This all becomes especially important when you're talking about goals that have been missed, for example, or disciplinary issues. If someone is not achieving according to what the company has set as the standard for achievement for that particular job, and you believe that they're a valuable employee, or you wouldn't have hired them if you didn't believe they were invaluable. Let's start with that.
Yeah.
You think that they can do the job, or you wouldn't have hired them in the first place, or shouldn't have.
Yeah.
But they're not achieving. So the question then becomes, why, and what can we do to get those to make sure those goals are met?
Is it part of me? Is it part of you? Let's figure this out together. Let's figure out what the next plan is. That way you're not letting the person get on defensive mode right away.
Exactly.
So, great stuff.
Just so.
That is it. And there is a trivia question. If you've made it this far and you still, what's in the background that's changed from a previous edition? And we may do this again. If you're the first person to comment on our blog about and correctly identify what it is, correctly identify, then we're going to let you download the entire program, the 8-part series of communication skills and public speaking skills.
And it's good. It's really good. Really
over good. There on my left
is Roger.
On your
Pike.
right is Roger Pike.
And on my right,
I'm Tim Gordon. Thanks for joining us for the podcast from communicationsteroids.com.